Hey everybody. First thing I want to say is, happy New Year. Thanks for watching. Um, I've been asked a bunch of questions that I want to answer. Um, some of them have to do with people have been asking me, how do I get some accuracy and smoothness in my line? How do I, what's a good way to hold the pencil? Some simple basic questions like that. So the first thing I want to say about holding a pencil, the way that I hold the pencil, the way that the way I handle brush strokes or that sort of thing. Um, the method that I developed, that I worked out, it's something that gives you high precision. It's first thing, in order to be able to get lines to go exactly where you want them and to have smooth lines. The first thing you need is a degree of coordination. First thing you need to do is you need to be able to lock your fingers and your wrist. You need to be able to treat this wrist and finger movement as an independent movement, independent from the rest of your body. So that means that, if I were to take my pencil and stick it somewhere in space, then I should be able to, keep that position in space, right? No matter what. Even if I stand up and I sit down, moving around, you need to be able to keep the orientation and position of this hand absolute, right? So it's almost like it's stuck in space. And the reason you do this is because when you are drawing, right? If we have a drawing surface here, the idea is that you use your fingers and your wrist to alter the direction at which your instrument is connecting with your material. Because if you're going tip down with the pencil, you're going to get a very fine point. If you come down kind of at a side on, you might even hold the pencil like this and use the side of it, for soft shading or for wide stuff. So the idea is that you're using your wrists and your hands and fingers to adjust the line quality. This is where you get the type of line you want. If you want a broad stroke, then you'll do this. If you want fine strokes, then you'll do this. There are different ways that you can hold the pencil, but once you've found, the line that you want, then at that point, you don't move this around. This stays still. Okay, so now that you can't, so that the idea is that you're not using your wrist, to work. You're not using your fingers to draw things, because whenever you do that, what happens is that the pencil starts, moving around. It starts changing its angle, and you don't get you lose control over the type of line that you get. So this is why you want to be able to lock your wrists and fingers. You can position your pencil, move those around to get the line quality you want. And then you keep that position. And then you use your shoulder and your elbow to move that hand around. So the idea is that, your hand is just sort of a vehicle that holds the pencil in a particular position, but you're going to use your shoulder and your elbow to move this vehicle around. Meanwhile, you don't want the vehicle to tip over or do any crazy stuff. You want to keep this smooth, keep this hands, the movement smooth. And I'll show you. Hang on, let me just get to the external camera. All right. So the idea here is, you can see it here on this thing here. All right. Now, if I use this tool over here, okay. See, if I use if I use the side of this tool, it's going to be wide strokes, and if I use the tip of it, it's going to be fine strokes. So the idea, whoops, let me here we are. Okay, so the idea is that if I want to work with fine strokes, and I'll just move the tip down so I can get fine strokes, and I'll shuttle my hand around. Right? You notice how my fingers, I'm not using my wrist, nor am I using my fingers to do any of the drawing. I'm simply using my shoulder. I'm using my shoulder and I'm using my elbow to do these movements. And it's something that is going to take some time to get used to. But the reason why I do it this way is so that I'm capable of doing very large movements. And I can get a consistent line weight. So if I want to do, shade a large area, then I will hold the pencil to give myself that wide shade, and then I can just shuttle the arm around and get consistent brush strokes. If I want, I can get consistent fine strokes. So this is something that you're going to have to get into the habit of doing, and that is hold the pencil to get the stroke that you want, and then use lock your hand down. You're going to have to try not to let your wrists and your fingers spin out. Once you find that position, then you lock your hand down. Now, some of you guys are going to be asking, well, how do I do stuff like little circles? How do I handle little circles? Well, the trick is that right here, oops, hang on, I'll hold that in front of the camera. Right here, on the base of your hand, well, there's your palm, right? Now, my hand is, as long as your hand's not kind of all sweaty and whatnot, my hands are quite dry actually. You can wear a cotton glove if your hands get sweaty, but you're gonna have to change them often because they get manky fast. You can use this as a friction brake. Use the bottom of your hand as a brake. So the idea is if you put very little pressure, on these surfaces over here, and your hand's going to slide very readily. So you can do large movements. But if you need to do anything that's very fine and minute, then you can increase the pressure on your brake, on your biological hand brake, and use that. If I put a lot of pressure on this, then my hand really doesn't go anywhere, and I'm capable of doing these very, very small, fine movements. But you can see I'm not moving my fingers or my wrists at all to do this sort of, fine movement. See that? It's all, in how you use your brake. So, you can use the braking movement. You can use the brake to adjust the speed at which, your hand moves around. All right. Now, people will say, ask, how do I get an accurate stroke? Well, you can only be accurate when you know where. You can only be accurate as long as you know where your line has to go. So let me just switch to the other monitor. Whoops. There we are. Okay. Now I'm running a little tool here in the background. This is a plugin that I created called Paper Trail, and what the Paper Trail does is, well, wherever my stylus goes, even though I'm not actually touching the, even though I'm not actually drawing anything. I'm not touching the stylus tip to the surface, I'm not applying any pressure, it draws this line which is constantly erasing itself. See that? It erases itself. So now, if you wanted to draw a circle, the idea is to move your hand around and around without actually touching, you're touching the tip to the paper. And you're going to use the mental afterimage that you have. What this Paper Trail thing is doing is this thing is actually giving you, instead of a mental image, it's actually giving you a real image, of the circle that you're trying to draw. So you can do these practice strokes and watch the path that your pencil is taking to figure out, how wide or how large, or you can adjust the placement of, the circle. And once you're happy with it, then you can just apply the lightest pressure, the lightest amount of pressure to get what you want. If I want a circle that's going to touch these two edges, there, it's not that hard. Same thing. Let me do another circle here that just wants to touch the edges, and then you apply the pressure. So that's the idea: is that you're always, when you move the pencil around, you have to be aware of the path that your pencil is going through. I want to touch the where these circles are crossing. I want to hit those spots right there. So. You can practice this. You practice making circles that pass through, whoops, a specific point. Right? Practice circles that touch at particular targets. You need to practice this. You have to have a goal. You have to have a target that you're trying to hit. Otherwise, there's no way to really practice your accuracy. And you can practice using small circles, and trying to stack them together, and then trying to, hit the links, and then you can practice on larger circles. And the funny thing is that you'll find that if you're right-handed, you'll find that circles are a lot easier to draw going counterclockwise. But practice both directions. Go clockwise as well, and do your practice strokes until you feel like you're going to hit all the right orbits, and then apply the pressure. Just do it like that. And here's the thing: if you screw up somewhere, if you draw and you kind of come out with a demented potato, then don't stop. Just keep going over it, over and over until you get the line you want. It's important that when you draw that you only apply a light amount of pressure. That's the other thing. If you don't have this Paper Trail tool, then you can just apply Here, let me turn off the paper trail. If you don't have the paper trail tool, then it's okay. You can just apply very, very light pressure, to your stylus, and or your pencil. And once you see what you like, then you just apply more and more pressure. This is the whole purpose of being light when you're sketching. And the other important thing to developing a light touch when you sketch is that if you screw up somewhere, it's easy to erase it. A very, very hard stroke like this, if you go and you manhandle the pencil and you make these really, really hard strokes, you'll find that when it comes time to erase them, that you gotta really rub at them to get rid of them, right? Whereas something that is done lightly, erases rather readily. Now, of course, this is all digital, but it still emulates the situation where you have to erase to get rid of the little pits. So, work light. You won't tire yourself out as much. And the other thing is that when you're working on a non-digital medium like a piece of paper, what'll happen is that when you start to push really, really hard, your pencil is going to dig a groove into the paper, and it's going to derail, and you're going to lose your accuracy. If you find that your lines are not thick enough, they're not dark enough, they're not, you can't get the bold line that you want. You've drawn, you can do these light lines, but you can't get, this dark line. There's a chances that you're using the wrong tool for the job. And that means that you need to use a pencil that is softer. You need to use a softer pencil, which doesn't require as much, crazy pressure to make it dark. Or you need to use ink. You need to use a pen, a ballpoint pen. You got to use a fountain pen. You got to use, a brush and India ink. That's the whole reason why we have these different mediums. Is because some of these different mediums are very, very. They give you, instantly black lines. You don't have to push hard. You don't lose your control. They are incredibly permanent, which means that you can't really make mistakes with them. But the reason why we do the sketching part, working light, is so that we can so we know exactly where to put these dark permanent lines. And that's why you don't use the same pencil for everything that you work with. You don't use the same pencil to make all of your dark lines. You don't monkey, you don't just work like a gorilla on the pencil and just wear out your art materials and ruin your paper. So use use the right tool for the job. Make sure you have something that's going to give you soft stroke, something that's going to give you hard stroke, going to give you thin and thick. Think about your tools as well. Use the right tool for the job. Now, getting back here, let me turn the paper trail back on. All right. So that just handles, dealing with things like circles. I mean, circles aren't the only thing that you're going to wind up drawing. You have to be able to do them clockwise and counterclockwise. You have to be able to get them accurate. But people ask, how do I get a straight line? Well, the thing about getting a straight line is, first of all, you need to know where you're starting and where you're ending. All right? You need to know where your line's going through. You can't have accuracy if you don't have a target, because if you don't have a target to be accurate to, right? Now, one of the important things when you do any kind of line drawing is, before you actually do the line, is what I'm doing here is let me turn on the external camera. Okay, there we go. You can see right here what I'm doing is I'm touching. I'm touching these 2 points. And when I'm touching these 2 points, what it does is it does a bunch of things. First of all, it gives me the familiar feeling, of where my hand is. I could probably shut my eyes, and still wind up on this line. Even if I shut my eyes, I'm still, at least my dots that I'm putting down are still along this line. So first things first, touch them. Touch the 2 points, because this will familiarize your hand with it. This will give you the temper, there is such thing as muscle memory, but it's a short-term muscle memory. It's a short-term muscle memory just for this one line. So that's why you touch the points, so that you can memorize, where your hand has to be. And also, if you're sitting badly, if you're sitting, kind of all slouched over, you're kind of like, leaning on your drawing arm, well, you're going to restrict your hand movement. Your hand has to be free. If your hand movement's not free, you're not going to be able to make any of the movements, the necessary movements to get a precise line. You're not going to be able to get whatever it is that you want. Your arm's going to be restricted. So you got to sit. You got to sit up properly. You got to have yourself. I like working with this tablet at an incline. It's important that you that you consider, how you sit so that your arm is free and unrestricted. So getting back to, I'll get back to the external camera. Okay, so you touch these 2 points, and this is ensuring that your hand is not getting, not your elbow's not bashing into anything. And this is especially important when you're using very permanent materials like inks, because erasing them is just a right bugger. So, that's what you do, is that it's the same thing with the circle, right? You can touch these 2 points and you can hit it. You touch these 2 points and then you hit them. And that's how you get straight lines, is you have to touch them, and then you have to shuttle your hand back and forth. See this, how my hand does not twist? I don't do any of this wacky stuff with my hand. I first figure out what kind of line do I want. Do I want a fat line? Do I want a skinny line? Do I want the line to be angled? What's the type of line that I need? Then I can shuttle my hand around in the necessary direction, to make that line that I need, to get the right line quality, get the right, line characteristic. I want the broad stroke, or maybe I want to have the narrow stroke, right? So, you have to angle the medium, because this is a chisel tip, right? This chisel tip rotates. You have to rotate the medium so that it's in the right direction. You park your hand and then you shuttle your hand, in the necessary direction. This is the control. This is what people want. People want to have control. So you have to look at your fingers, and your wrist as being a separate set of controls from your elbow and your shoulder. Now, the other nice thing about drawing with your entire arm is that when you work this way, you're using the mass of your entire arm. You've got all this mass here. There's all this weight of your forearm. Well, there's not really much mass here because I'm built like a freaking chicken. But you've got all the mass of your arm, and which is going to be participating in the movement. And the nice thing about it is that this mass is going to dampen out your jittery hand, right? It's okay to hold your pencil still, but a lot of times when you try and draw with fingers, fingers make these really, really wobbly lines. And by using your whole arm, the mass of your arm is gonna soften. It's gonna stabilize all those terrible little vibrations. So you want to draw, not with your wrists and your fingers, but you want to draw with your entire arm so that we can get these smooth curves. This is what you want. You want to be able to get use your arm to dampen out the vibration. So when it comes to doing the lines, you can hit these 2 targets, and it's the same thing. You want targets, right? You want to be able to hit targets. I could just touch these 2 lines and then move along the path. Touch these 2 lines, touch the 2 dots, just move across. And then once you have enough lines, that are drawn, then you can start looking at the intersections of the lines. I can look at this dot and I can look at this intersection. And I can make a line that passes through that intersection. So again, this is a nice exercise for you to do. Don't worry about ruining paper. You're going to have to ruin a lot of sheets of paper. Think of each piece of paper as a ticket. It's the price of admission. You're going to have to destroy and defile a lot of paper with inaccurate strokes. But this is the manual dexterity, part of things. It's just this is really probably the easiest thing that you can practice. You don't have to be absolutely perfect. It's whoa. I lost my. Hang on, sorry about that. You don't have to be absolutely perfect. I don't always hit the dots bang on every single time. There's only so good, person can get. I mean, you're a machine, but you're a machine made out of meat, right? So, there's only so good something made out of meat can get. There's only so precise that you can get. But as long as you have this, as long as you have the discipline to do this every single time, that you don't lapse and you suddenly start doing something really. Oops, let's turn on the. This thing has an auto power off, this darn camera. As long as you don't do something goofy like, drawing, with my fingers and, just getting all stupid, then, you're going to be okay. As long as you just remember to do things the right way, do things in the way that gives you the most control and precision. And you just the purpose of practicing this exercise is just so it doesn't feel weird to you when you try to draw circles or straight lines or curves or this or that. So that's I guess that's what it means, to be able to just to be able to hold and control your medium. It's really quite simple. So anyway, I think I want to end this one now. Let's record a different